how much further would you go if you're trying to choose greatness over just like, oh yeah, I'm gonna do it. Like it's just a little thing that I'm doing or blah blah blah. Right? That's mostly the important part there, right? Chasing perfection, even though it's unobtainable. I think that would be the best thing. Yeah.
Welcome to Sun City SITREP. It's another new episode, and today we have an exciting new member here with us.
Hey guys, how's it going? My name is Gabriel. I'm an audio engineer and producer. Super stoked to be here. It's a privilege to be here. So I thank you for inviting me.
Oh no, it's a pleasure to have you. Because as we all know, it's really important when we go to movies, when we watch any shows, when we literally hear any podcast, the host, the actors, everyone, what we see is really important to like keep the show going. But the real important people and aspect of it as well is the people behind the scenes. Like in here, we have, as you guys know, Albert is our behind the scenes type of guy. Shout out to Albert. And in any other Hollywood type of movie, industry, show, whatever, there's people behind the scenes. And one of the main ones, at least for me, has always been the people behind the audio. Because you can really have really good movie quality, a great image, but if audio sucks, it just takes you away. Mm-hmm. But you can have like really good audio, and as long as it works, I mean, that's why back in the days, they used to use radio shows and not just picture shows.
Yeah, exactly.
So tell me about
silent film.
How you got into it?
Yeah, so pretty much I started in high school. It was a thing where all my friends kind of did a little bit of music, just like rapping. The same kind of lore, right? Where everybody just kind of gets into a car and starts freestyling over like YouTube beats on a car radio, right?
Yeah.
I think everybody has that universal experience. But there was this one program called, I think it was Odyssey or Audacity. I don't know what it's called. It's like a very,
Audacity.
Yeah, exactly.
Yes.
So it's a very Excel sheet looking program, right? Very, hard to understand, very Google Docs kind of feel.
Yeah, but it does its job.
But it does its job, yeah. But it
and
does
it's
its
free.
job. Yeah, and it's free,
thing.
exactly. Yeah, so that's exactly why we used it, because it was free, right? All my friends, they wanted to start recording music. They started, recording all that kind of cool stuff. They had no idea what they were doing on, that program, right? Luckily, I knew a red little button that was to record, and I knew stop, play, like all the very basic commands. I think now looking back at it, I didn't know how to like cut or delete, so it was just like, bro, you got one take. Like after that, yeah, like yeah, we're gonna go from beginning to end, and then we'll worry about the ad libs after, right?
Yeah.
But yeah, that's how I pretty much started, right? I was the only one that kind of knew that certain program, and they would be like, hey, I'll pay you $30 in a McChicken or something like that. And I was like, dude, for McChickens, I'll do anything, right? Yeah, that's how the origins of like where it birthed that spark of like, hey, maybe this is a cool hobby. What if I turn it into some change, right? Mm-hmm. Granted, I was doing it a lot independently before I was actually working at the studio I'm working right now. But it wasn't until working with the studio that they kind of refined my skills, my workflow, all that kind of cool stuff, and ultimately brought me all the cool opportunities that I have had the privilege of working with today. Yeah.
Yeah, and we have, I mean, at least before you came here, I saw some of your work, and you're really good at
awesome.
it.
Thank you.
I find it quite amazing because, yeah, I mean, like I said, audio is just, at least for me and like for many people on the entertainment industry, it's just a really important skill that you just need to like master essentially, because it could really ruin your game. Mm-hmm. So what exactly were your challenges? Because I know you just told me that the moment you get into the studio, they help you kind of refine your skills. Mm-hmm. But I know when it comes to audio, unlike video, which I don't want to, like, I'm a video editor, so I've also done that. But I feel audio is a little bit more technical and a little bit harder to get the grasp on, because it's not like you can just cut, split, and there you go. You like actually have to go. So what were some of the challenges that you went through after going from Audacity into, like, I imagine, what's your main?
Pro Tools.
Pro Tools? Oh,
Yeah.
I love Pro Tools,
Yeah,
but
Pro
it's
Tools is amazing.
expensive now.
Yeah.
But
Low monthly, yeah.
yeah, the
Gotcha.
monthly payment got me like, okay, maybe not.
Yeah.
But yeah, so what kind of challenges did you went through, like going from the Audacity and now into like refining your skills into Pro Tools?
Yeah, definitely. In my opinion, well, since I guess I have a little bit before I started Pro Tools, before I started the studio, because when I started Pro Tools, it was the first couple days that I've ever been at a professional studio. Before that, I was actually recording and doing everything after Audacity to FL Studio, right? So the jump between FL Studio to Pro Tools is not that complicated, right? It's like if you know one book, you might know the ending to the other, right? But it's just different ways to get there, really, right? I don't think there's a such thing where people say like, oh yeah, like that mix, like it was done on FL Studio, like that's how I know that it's not good. Blah, blah,
Yeah,
blah.
no.
100% that's not the case, right? It's the as they say, the boy, not the toy, right? It's mostly your skills, your ears, rather than anything else, right? It's just the DAW would be really the only thing that changes, I guess, with the DAW is how to get there and how to do it with the speed that it takes to do it, right? But other than that, it's not really that crazy. The big jumps, I mean, honestly, it was a whole lot of like staying up to like 3, 4 in the morning, pressing random buttons to see what they do, what they're called, right? Because you also
Yeah.
have to learn like terminology as well. It's mostly experimenting, and that's where I think a lot of people will kind of learn a little bit more, which is like hands-on stuff, right? I can read a book about FL Studio or Pro Tools, right? But it's not until I actually open up the program and do the thing, right? Just like you guys, if you do photo and video and all that kind of stuff, a lot of people can tell you about what to do, what to buy, how to do it, but it's not until you start experimenting with it a little bit more that you fully like understand like, okay, if I change this lighting, if I bring this up, if I bring that down, that's when you kind of get the whole sense of like the whole thing, right?
Yeah. You gotta get down and gritty.
Yeah, exactly. You gotta
order
get in
to
the
get
mud.
the experience,
Yeah, exactly. But yeah, man, that's I think the only difference, right? It's just how to get there and how long it takes you to do those effects, to do those changes, that kind of stuff. Yeah.
That's really cool. And now that you mentioned FL Studio, like I imagine you have gone through like many different softwares. So which one's your favorite? Like, let's say it's just you for fun. It's not like specifically like voiceover or like music recording or like engineering or like sound design. Like it's just you for fun.
Yeah.
If you had to choose one, which one would you pick?
That one varies, honestly, just because like I mentioned, like the workflow is way different, right?
Yeah.
It's the same tool but way different, right? So anything that's like sound design, as far as like making synths or like a quote unquote score or like productions, instrumentals, that kind of stuff, my go-to is FL Studio. It's super easy to use once you like learn it. It's really easy to do drums on there as well, get that swing, you know what I mean?
Yeah.
But as far as like engineering itself, reverb sends to inserts to IO to all that kind of stuff, super easy to use Pro Tools, right?
Yeah.
Rather than FL Studio. There's some things that I don't like about FL Studio that I see some people like will use them, and I'm like, oh, it's a little bit easier to do it this way, but I understand like if that's your preference of DAW, that's up to you, right?
Yeah, totally makes sense.
Yeah.
And on Pro Tools, have you dabbled? Because I know you do mostly voiceover work and sound design, but have you dabbled on creating surround sound?
I haven't yet. That's something that I really want to get into, right? That's my ultimate goal, I think, when I get older, just because whenever you see a mixer that does like re-recording mixes or even like Foley mixer or like all that kind of stuff,
Yeah.
they're usually like, gentlemen that are a little bit on the older side, or like, I guess gentlewomen that are a little bit on the older side too. So it is something that does take a very long time, especially if you want to do it to the caliber of like the highest standard, which is working at Paramount, Warner
Yeah.
Brothers, all that kind of stuff. That ultimately is my goal, right? When I'm like 50, white hair, I have a head full of hair right now, but when I have no hair, that's where I want to be, right? Recording those kind of things, mixing those kind of things. Are you familiar with like the whole like spatial audio mixing, that kind of realm?
Yes.
Yeah. Okay. So you'll understand how important it is during a cinema, right? A movie. You're sitting down, and if it sounds like garbage, you're like, I'm not feeling that effect. I'm not feeling that emotion, because it's just not connecting as well, right? Just like you were saying earlier, it's very important. If not, then it just kind of throws out the whole game, right? But yeah, it is something I want to get into. I don't have the equipment for it right now, but I'm slowly working my way up there. and then seeing if I can help anybody on the process too. So
That's amazing. Well, I can't wait till you like also to see your journey getting old.
yeah,
To
yeah,
it.
dude.
Yeah,
I'm telling
'cause
you, white
believe
hair.
me, when I first got into Pro Tools, also that was my achievement. Like, I want surround sound because that's just brings you into the experience. You know?
Exactly. Yeah,
Yeah.
exactly.
I'm not sure. Jumping into another, now that we're talking about surround sound, the reason that I mention it is because one of my favorite movies when it comes to audio is A Quiet Place.
Okay. Yeah. Okay.
Because essentially, even though it's a quiet place, the way that they created the sound design to actually match and like you hear like you're inside of the actual movie, that was just what amazed me about it. Since they cannot talk, so it's all throughout sound and stuff. And I was wondering, what's your favorite movie, or like favorite like any type of entertainment thing
Yeah.
that you're just like you hear it and you're like, this is what I want to create, like this type of thing.
Gotcha. I think my favorite thing about movies, I mean, I think the audio wise, like whole Foley and sound effects and all that kind of stuff is very important. I think the reason for me to really like a movie has to be dialogue,
Okay.
right? Like the actual script itself, right?
Yes.
And I'm kind of a basic, simple man. You know what I mean? I'm a basic, simple man. So everybody's going to be like, dude, I could have told you that from miles away. But I think Interstellar probably has to be my favorite movie ever. Not only visuals wise, right? But
Yeah.
dialogue wise, amazing, right? I don't know how many times I go through TikTok and I
Yeah.
just see like a bunch of edits of like Interstellar with like, the monologues that they have and all that kind of stuff.
Honestly, yes.
I
Inner
live
jealousy
for it.
speak.
I live
Yes.
for it. Yeah, exactly. But I think that would be my favorite movie as far as like dialogue, visuals go. Yeah. I think that's my favorite one, honestly. I don't think I have a second one. I think that's just like the one, and that's it.
It's okay. The one that you pick, I think, is like pick.
Yeah,
so
right.
honestly, yeah.
Yeah,
Yeah.
100%.
But talking about dialogue, then, since you work on voiceover, do you prefer to work with like dialogues that are more like, I would say, grounded? Like it's like, let's say, a soap opera type of thing, like it's just characters talking? Or do you like when you get like, I know you've worked on like My Hero Academia, for example, and that involves like actual talent to do voices,
Yeah.
outside of like, oh, this is my normal voice, and then they go into the character's voice. So which one do you like working with more? Is it more fun?
I think both are really cool. One, because whenever it's a character of a little bit more of fantasy, I guess you can call it, they tend to have a little bit more freedom to like yell and to really get like chaotic, right? I remember one of the episodes that we did with Mountain Lady. She just had this really crazy scene where she was instructing the kids to defend the school, right? Because they're getting attacked, or I don't know what the story was. I kind of forgot about it. But basically, she had the full round to yell, and that's exactly what she did. And it was just the most like beautiful thing I've ever seen in my whole life, right? It was just like she let loose, she didn't care, and it's cool because there's it's the control board, my computer, all that kind of cool stuff, right?
Okay.
And then she's recording in a separate room, but there's a glass in between us, and I get to see her while she's doing a lot of that cool stuff, right? So me recording, me doing all that kind of stuff, and seeing her, just kind of step into that character just to unlock, a certain feeling or a certain tone. And it's a tone that we hadn't really done previously with that character. She's usually more like very like deep register, kind of like instructive, very like that kind of feel.
Yeah.
But in this one, she was more of like grit, like, oh my god, like we need to defend, we need to do this, like more military, like hardcore style. And it was just, it unlocked something different in me. I'm like, dude, this is insane, right? Like this is cool.
Yeah.
But yeah, I think when people get into characters like that, it's super, super dope. Whenever it's just more so like dialogue, I think it's really cool too. I've had a chance to work with a couple different people for a movie called I'm blanking here. Hopefully this doesn't make it. But what is it called? Okay, cool. I'll retract that. All right. So yeah, I got the privilege to actually work in a movie. I got the chance to work for a movie called Accidental Texan. So on that one, basically, it's on Hulu, by the way, in case you want to watch it. It's really cool. It's like an indie film, that kind of stuff. Very, very talented director. Mark, he's really, really dope. He's actually does the storyboard art for Mission Impossible, Top Gun, Maverick, all these kind
Ooh,
of things.
that's great.
So he directed that movie. It was really, really dope. But yeah, I got to work with a talented actor named David, and he is, just one of the oil men in the movie. And we got to do different lines from different parts of the scenes of the movie, right, itself. And some parts were really funny. Some parts were just like him talking smack to, the other characters, that kind of stuff. So I think both are really, really dope. I think it's the person that does them that's just like, that makes it from like, oh, okay, cool, to like, oh my God, like that was really good. Like I
Yeah.
can see that being like a moment, right? I think that would be the important part there. Yeah.
Yeah, I totally see it. And honestly, yeah, that's really cool because, like, I don't know, I'm just amazed when you are talking about this. So, exactly what is your process that you go through? Because you said you're there with the talent inside, well, not inside the room, because, yeah,
Yeah.
she's on the other room
I'll
with the
yell with you.
glass.
I'll
Yes.
yell with you. Yeah.
So, you literally go from the process of like the actual production of it, and you go ahead and do the post as well?
So I do. So I think it's called like second unit post production,
Oh,
which is
okay,
because
yeah.
first unit would be like in set doing the actual
Yes,
sound and that kind
technically.
of stuff. So my field would be second field or second post production. And basically, we'll have the post production team send us, the video, right, the picture. We have to time sync it on Pro Tools to make sure that we're on like the right time code and all that kind of cool stuff. And depending on every session that does like ADR, VO, that kind of stuff, will be a little bit different. Some people will do like Source Connect, or some people will just do Zoom. I've done a radio commercial for Cricket, and that was like on Google Meet or something like that. Google Talk. I forgot the program for called. But every session will be different depending on what they're looking for, right? Where they want to connect, what they're used to connecting with, all that kind of cool stuff. In this case, let's say, for example, a company reaches out to us and is like, hey, we want to do ADR work. Our talent is around or is going to be there, blah, blah, blah. We go through the process of, sometimes they ask us for test as well, right? Which is like, hey, can you send us a recording of somebody saying, a very random dialogue that they give us, just so we could check out what the microphone sounds like, what the room sounds like, if there's anything that's like out of the ordinary, maybe like a lot of air, a lot of reverberations, that kind of stuff, right? And then from there, our facility is pretty top notch, so they usually tend to just, like approve it right then and there. And then from there, they let us know like, hey, you know what, you were going to be looking for this date to this date from this time to this time. We're going to be connecting on Zoom or Source Connect or blah, 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 blah. Our post-production team will send you guys the picture with the requirements of, what you need to deliver right afterwards, right? If it's, the Pro Tools session or consolidated multi-tracks or whatever the case is, that's what we deliver to them, right? It's a whole process, honestly, just because it takes a very long time to set those kind of things up. Not only setting them up, but also having that conversation of back and forth over email, right? Which is like, hey, I need this microphone. Hey, I need the picture. They need to be able to see us, or, it doesn't really matter, or whatever the case is. Yeah, I think that would be my process. The process of them being able to come in and just, not really worry about anything technical. I think that's the most important part. Granted, there will be things that, we might have issues with. We're totally human, right? Sometimes things work, sometimes they don't. We just have to, figure it out fast and really resolve that problem as quickly as possible. If not, we're wasting a lot of people's time, right? Just because, the talent is going to be there waiting. We also might have the director on Zoom or wherever the case that they're also waiting. And in some cases, they also have like a post-production team just to kind of direct the dialogue to see if they need anything or if they approve, or even if they're just there just to like kind of like project manage, just to, in case they have questions or just to be in the Zoom call or whatever. Now we're wasting a lot of people's time, right? So we need to be quickly on that. And yeah, I just try to make it as easy as possible for everybody that's, tagging along. And as comfortable as possible too, right? Because you don't want the talent to come in and be like, oh, I feel weird or nervous, or like if something's going wrong or blah, blah, blah. I just want everything to be perfect and nothing less than that. Yeah.
Yeah, that's really great. And you're talking about all of this before like we moved into anything. It just got me curious to know. I mean, if you feel okay sharing.
Sure.
Do you have any experiences like all throughout your work that you're like, I think this was like the worst experience, that like things just went to like hell, or maybe it's like one of those experiences that you are just like the one that you just explained with the talent of Mount Lady, that you were like, she was screaming and you just felt the actual rush of it, like that it's just really good. Do you have like any of those stories that like you would like to share?
Yeah, definitely, man. Definitely on positive ones. Definitely on positive ones.
Okay.
I think.
Also, if you have negative ones, it's okay if you don't mention names. Don't worry. We don't want to get you like
I
canceled
got you.
already.
No, I got you. No, I definitely have positive ones. Again, with the Mount Lady ones, I think those are really special. Every time she comes on screen, it's kind of a little bit more funner, right? Or if that's even a word, right? More fun. Yeah, I think her scenes are very special. Just because she brings a little bit more liveliness to like the scenes, or sometimes when it's in the middle of quote unquote war, like she's very directive and assertive.
Yeah.
If that's a word, so that's the right word. That's the word,
Yeah,
right?
that
Okay, cool.
works.
Just
Yeah.
making sure. Hey, English is no good. Spanish is even worse. So, but yeah, I think those scenes are really cool. My second and third favorite, well, I think all of them are my favorite, honestly, just because I really love that field of work. As a kid, I always went to the movie theaters, like always, 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 every weekend, every 2 weeks, that kind of stuff, either with my mom or my dad. Always loved movie theaters. If it's the that theater, I don't know if it's still open, but it used to be like a $1 ticket thing, where it was by
Yeah.
Lee Trevino.
Yeah, I remember
So
which
my dad
one.
used to take us there. It was a $1 ticket like every single day or something like that, $1.50. And then you would go in and it'd be pirated movies, right? Like it wouldn't even be the official movie, right? It would be pirated movies. But anyways, yeah, that's why I think they're so important to me. Like all of them, it doesn't matter, from larger scale to lower scale. I think all of them are important just because I really love that field of work. Apart from music too, right? Because I really love music, but that just has a certain, nostalgia feel to me, which is like
Yes.
I really loved movies growing up as a kid, whether it was the VHS movies, DVD movies, and going into like Blu-ray movies when we started getting a little fancier, like in 20,
Yeah.
08 or whatever the case was. Um, but yeah, the Mount Lady stuff was cool. Working with Abe on The Chosen was really special too. I did the last 2 episodes of I think season 3 or season 2. I can't remember which season it was, but it was the
Okay.
episodes where Jesus walks on waters.
Mm.
And it was before the VSX, before all that kind of green screen stuff. So on the picture that we had, it was really dope to see, right? The full production set. It was really dope to see all the actors, doing their thing, and really seeing Abe get into that character of like, hey, you know, we're on a boat, it's going crazy, the wind is howling, all that kind of stuff. And being able to see, such a cool scene before it released was just like really special. Especially like I mentioned, it was before VSFX, all that kind of cool stuff, right? Um, that was one of them just because again he gets into character, and I think it's so inspiring when actors get into character just because it's not something that we usually see in music too much, just because I feel like in music it's just another, well, I wouldn't say it's another, but it's the same person virtually that's making the music, but just a little bit more expressive or a little bit more open, more vulnerable,
Yeah.
right? Whenever it's into acting, like you're literally stepping into a different perspective, a different time, maybe too,
Hmm.
right? And I think that's why it's so so cool. The third best memory that I have is I worked on a video game called Starfield as well for Xbox.
Oh, you work on Starfield.
Yeah, it's really, I never played it, but it looks dope. I
I
don't
know
have an
which one it
Xbox,
is.
I have a PlayStation. Let me tell you,
Me too.
but
Don't worry.
yeah, all right, cool. I gotta get an Xbox just to play it. But yeah, I got to work on a video game called Starfield by Bethesda, really really cool company. And we worked with a talent. Her name was Meve. She's a younger girl, probably. I think the time that we worked together, she was probably like 13, 14 years old, right? Um, it was really really cool dialogue, a really long session as well. Towards the end we got into the more intense scenes,
Hmm.
right? And just seeing her again unlock that character to the full vulnerability, it's just like insane to me, right? Like it's like she's extremely talented at such a young age as well. Like I can only imagine when she's in her like 20s, in her late 20s, in her 30s, that kind of
Yeah.
stuff, right? There's no doubt in my mind that she's gonna be amazing at whatever genre of film or music, or sorry, not music, film, TV shows, video games,
Yeah. Wherever
BL.
she decides to go.
Exactly,
Yeah.
yeah. I think it's gonna be super awesome. So I think yeah, pretty much, whenever people unlock those things, it sparks something in me like that's like, oh my god, like seeing it in live person is just, it's unreal to me sometimes. Yeah.
Yeah. And it's actually great to hearing you talk like this because, I mean, I do feel like you need that passion, that drive in order to like get into this type of industry because I'm sure you are going to agree with me. Like this industry, if you're not in it for like the passion, it can really take you out of it.
Yes,
Because
exactly.
it's not an easy industry to be in.
Yep.
But talking about like the passion and the stuff, like I want to talk a little bit more about how you see the industry like now at the age that we're living on. Because I mean, recently we have touching upon a new matter. We have seen like AI like be a big thing when it comes to like not just the entertainment industry, like everywhere, literally. It's just taking over. But we saw how it just struck the entertainment industry really big like a couple of years ago with the writer's strike, then the actor's strike, and then the video game strike also. And it's slowly like also creeping its way into like the music genre and the sound. Now that you can like just grab whatever voice and like recreate it in AI.
Yeah.
Which is easier than recreating a literal human.
Yeah,
which is
yeah.
gonna like give you that like uncanny valley type of feeling.
Right.
The voice might be like easier. So what are your like thoughts or feelings about when it comes to like not necessarily using AI just to like replace like your job or like
Right.
voice actors or like any of them, but like upon the matter of like the big scope of it, like as a tool or as a enemy essentially.
Yeah. It would, for sure. I think there's a lot of pros and there's a lot of cons, right? I can't, be hypocrite and be like, oh, you shouldn't use it because then my job is gonna blah blah blah. Well, it does suck, 100%. It does suck. I might get less clientele, blah blah blah, right? But in this case, I think it's a tool that some engineers, and I'm only speaking on engineers just because I am one, right? I wouldn't be able to speak for like writers and that kind of stuff. But as far as the engineer side of things, I think it definitely is an extra tool that even we can use a little bit more, right? But I think it's just not practiced that much right now, I think, right?
Yeah.
There are plugins that will analyze audio and do some sort of algorithmic or like some kind of measuring that will get you closer to what you're looking for, what the references and that kind of stuff. But it doesn't ultimately, like, it doesn't get you there all the way, right? There's always, some fine tweaking. There's always some extra things, right? I think, it's a tool. It can be bad. It can be good. It just depends on how you use it. It can hurt your project or it can make it a little bit better, right? I'm not someone that will always, try to shy away from something new. If it works for me and it helps me bring more value to the people that I work with, then why not do it? You know what I mean?
Yeah.
So definitely it's cool. I think the cons of AI as far as voices go, again, pros and cons, right? Pros, it could be something of like, let's say yourself, right? Let's say you might be a writer for music, but you're like, I just don't like my voice or I can't hit these octaves or blah, 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 but I want to be an artist, right? You could go the route of writing the whole thing and having your own voice getting examined and mocked up by AI to sound like you, but seeing, at a higher pitch or seeing, maybe registers that you can't really hit, but it's still your lyrics and it's still your voice. That can be a pro, right? That could be a pro. The only thing is that when you play live, right, it might be a little different. When you play live, it might be a little bit different.
You lip sync all the way.
Yeah, exactly, right? But that could be a pro. A con is, let's say, for example, your Drake, right, which is heavily AI'd voices, right? Let's say you're Drake. And there's people that are making like meme songs saying maybe, a couple things that Drake wouldn't say himself, right? And people are making these memes of you and it's going viral on TikTok and that kind of stuff, right? That sucks because you don't have control of it. Maybe you can do like a cease and desist or whatever the case is. But at that point, if hundreds of thousands of people are making it, you know what I mean? It might be a little bit harder, which is why they want to go on like this whole revolution of like anti AI, at least for voices, or if they do the voice AI stuff, it has to be licensed, right? And I think like under some certain rules of what the context of the voice would be doing, all that kind of stuff, right? But again, there's always pros and cons to a lot of things that are new. That's one of them, right? Just you don't have control, or sometimes you get a little bit more flexibility. Yeah,
Yeah, totally. Yeah, because I mean, like you said, it is simply a tool. It's up to, I guess, us, the humans, to decide which way
exactly,
are we gonna use it.
exactly. Yep.
Yeah, and when it comes to the human aspect of it as well, what are your thoughts on like how the industry has been evolving, mostly here within our city of El Paso? Like, cause as I mean, if you have seen also like as I've seen, El Paso, it is a hard city to be an artist in.
Yeah,
And mostly back in the years, it was like if you wanted to like get into like any type of art,
gotta dish out.
painting, yeah, you gotta get
Yep.
out there, because in here you would just be stuck and like essentially not grow as an artist in your own skill or in your own like what would it be like
Yeah, yeah.
career.
Gotcha. Yeah. I think now it feels like it's a little bit easier, right? Of course, because like you said, back then it was just a little bit harder. You would have to get outside resources or outside opportunities in order to just kind of step up a little bit more into like that light, right? I think now with the age that we have of media, right? I think it's a little bit easier for artists to come from anywhere, right? It might be a little bit harder to do shows, right? But at least for like social media followings, like you see people from all over the world that are going viral for songs that they just record on BandLab, right? Which is another free tool that people use. And they get followings, and then they get some sort of deals, or they start getting paid by TikTok or Instagram or whatever the case is. So I think it's the same thing here in the city, right? I think there's a lot of cool opportunities here, especially now. I feel like the live scene is growing a little bit more. At first, it used to be kind of like just bands, right? Just
Yeah.
more live instrument stuff. But now it's kind of shifting into like, okay, like there's singers, there's rappers, there's poets, there's all that kind of cool stuff. And there's also a sprout of people that are going into like promotions and event organization and that kind of cater stuff, that gives opportunity to more local independent people to be able to do stuff here and not have to go to like Las Cruces, or not have to go to Albuquerque, or not have to go to wherever they go. Just stay home and be in the vicinity of El Paso and still be able to do the same thing, right? There's a really cool number of people that I know that live in El Paso that have a really good following as far as like Spotify plays, Apple Music plays, Instagram, TikTok, that kind of stuff. And their whole start of the career, it was all here in El Paso, right? It wasn't until that media stuff started blowing up a little bit more that they started getting opportunities that are outside of El Paso. And I think if you feel like you're a little bit more trapped in El Paso, do your thing, right? Like nobody's gonna hold you and be like, no, you should stay here in El Paso because we birthed you and all that kind of stuff, right?
Yeah.
I think opportunity is always gonna be great wherever you go, as long as there is opportunity, right? But if you can get it here, that's even great, right? That's the same amount of great as you would make it anywhere else. And I think as a community of El Paso, we should understand that too, right? Because I've heard a lot of people say like, oh yeah, this guy blew up and then just left, right? Which is like, okay, cool. Like it probably was because if they stayed, they might not have that same opportunity than being in Atlanta, being in Miami, being in LA, right? In those kind of places where there's a lot of moving parts and a lot of cool stuff to do there that will help you with branding, that will help you with shows, that would help you with whatever you got going on, right? But yeah, I think as a community we should be okay with people just wanting to leave, right? We still have to support them, right? Because no matter where they go, they still got El Paso in blood, right?
Oh yeah, most definitely.
100%, yeah.
Oh yeah, and I love the way that you explained that, because I mean, you mentioned that you work with Ave, and we actually had recently the pleasure of having him in the studio and do a little interview when he came to El Paso, and he's one of those talents that was born and raised in El Paso, got successful, and now has the opportunity. I mean, he plays James the Great in the show scene. And he also played on NCIS, if I'm not mistaken, and he has more opportunities upcoming. And just like you said, even though he left El Paso for opportunities that were like given to him, he still knows El Paso, and he comes back and like he comes, gives talks, helps people that are like up and coming here in El Paso, because I believe that is the thing. Like, just because you left your city doesn't necessarily means that
Your
you're
heart left
gone.
it too. Yeah,
Exactly.
exactly.
Yeah, and that's the important thing. Like, I remember my grandpa used to tell me that, because I mean, he always knew as well that I wanted to get into like the movie industry. And like I said, back then it was, you just had to leave to LA essentially. Um, but he always used to tell me like, just because you know that if you have to fish, you have to go to the river, doesn't mean that you won't come back to feed those that have been there with you. And
I
it's
like
like
that.
it's the same thing. Like, just because the opportunity isn't here in the city at the moment, just because you left to find the opportunity over there, doesn't mean that you won't come back, bringing what you have found. And then
Exactly.
that's the only way that essentially we're gonna get to grow. And I
Exactly.
believe that's what's been happening slowly in El Paso when it comes to the whole entertainment industry. I mean, we just had a full feature by Warner Brothers shot, and essentially like the majority of it here in El Paso.
Yep. Yep. Yeah, it's definitely on the rise, right? I think you could kind of feel the shift of like things are evolving a little bit more in the city as far as like creative space goes a little bit more. And again, that's, some might be just, really good, lucky opportunities where it's might be a little bit more of the financial things that it's a little bit more easier, or the setting is correct here in El Paso, or whatever the case is. I know there was actually a couple shots of a Liam Neeson movie shot here by one of the hospitals downtown. I forgot the movie of it, but I know that they shot
I know
some.
which one it is. I do not
Is it
remember the title though.
Memory? No, is it
No,
Memory? No, no,
is it?
no. I know it's,
No.
yeah, I think it is, no, because he has like Alzheimer's
Yeah,
and he's
it's
like an
Memory is the
assassin or something
Alzheimer
like that.
ones. Yeah, but
Yeah.
was the one recorded?
Yeah, it was it was some shot that was a brain fart.
You're good. Don't worry.
Yeah, there were some shots that were happening downtown because I remember seeing the hospital and the bridge in the middle, that kind of stuff, and then it even says it to in the movie. They try to play it as like, oh, Juarez, Mexico, or like
Yeah.
that kind of stuff, but it was actually shot here in El Paso, right?
Oh.
And that was a couple years back, I think like in 2022, 21, something like that. But yeah, definitely is a growing space. I think it's very important for people that are in that caliber of, success, or in that caliber of knowing their skill and knowing it well, for them to be able to give back to either, I guess you can call them disciples in a sense, right? To people that are trying to kind of follow in that footsteps, even myself, right? I still am the person to ask, like, hey, can you give me advice on this or on that if it's something that I don't know, right? And I think that's
Yeah.
something that everybody should do, right? No matter what level of skill you have, no matter what level of anything, right? I think you
Yeah.
should still have that humility to be like, hey, I do need help. I don't understand this, or whatever the case is, right? And that one that makes you, for other people to see you as like, oh, he's really cool to work with, or really, eager to learn, and that kind of stuff, right?
Yeah.
But I think as internally for us, I think when we ask questions, it makes us remember like, hey, we don't know anything, right? Like there's still a whole ocean of things to discover as far as, what we can provide, what we can learn, right? Yeah, just the other day, again, talking about the movie mixing stuff, that's something that I really want to get into. And I follow a couple people that that they actually mix movies and Foleys and re-recording mixers, that kind of stuff, for Warner Brothers. And they did like Shogun, and they did Wicked, and they did like
Ooh.
all these crazy stuff, right? And they only have like 1,000 followers, 1,200, which is insane to me,
It is
right? It's
insane.
which is another topic we'll get into right after this. But yeah, they have a little bit of a smaller following, right? And I think it's just because, they're not really like social media heavy, that kind of stuff, which
Yeah.
I wish I wasn't either, right? And I
mean,
don't think I am.
we are
either.
behind the scenes
But yeah,
people.
exactly. Yeah.
So.
Yeah, I was like, he doesn't follow me, but what are the chances of him being able to DM me back, right? It's only about 1,000 people that he follows, so I think realistically it wouldn't be too hard. But if it doesn't happen, like, I'm okay with that too.
Yeah.
But yeah, I just send them a simple DM like, hey, I love your work. I admire, what you're doing. I'm hoping to, someday in the future go to that, again, that caliber of like what you're doing right now, right? How did you get your start in it? When you're working with these notable companies like Warner Brothers, Paramount, all that kind of stuff, do they more so look for skill, or are they looking for somebody with like an education, like an actual, college education with it, or a little bit of both, right?
Yeah.
So those are questions that I ask. We'll see the answer when he answers, right? But it's okay to, always ask for help, or always ask for knowledge, really, just advice. Yeah.
Yeah, I mean, essentially, because at the end of the day, if you like ask 100 people, as long as one of them answers you, you made it.
Yeah.
So yeah, I totally
Exactly.
agree with the whole asking thing. And
Exactly.
since you brought it up about the following, because it is crazy that we sometimes see like people that just have done amazing things, and like you said, it's because we're like behind the scenes people. We are not like the our name on the stars type of guys.
Yeah.
Like, and so you get to like see these people and have like merely 1,000 followers, and you're like, what? I mean, you worked on Wicked, you work on Shotgun, like what is this?
Yeah, it's insane. I think it's really insane. Yeah, I know tons of people that have really cool accolades, I guess you can call them, and really cool projects that they've worked with, but they have like 500 followers, 600 followers, 1,000, and most of those are like people that they've worked with, like
Yes.
other producers or other, anything that's around their field, right? Their peers, really. But not really like anybody that's just like a fan of their work, right? And I
Yeah.
think us as people that are behind the scenes, like I'm okay with that, dude. Like I'd rather have my feed full of people that I've worked with and that I care about, as a professional relationship, right? Of course.
Yeah, the connections you've
Exactly.
made.
Yeah.
Yes.
Than to have a million followers of just like a random people, right? Nonetheless, I would be grateful for a million followers. That would open a lot of doors, right? Netflix, right?
It does.
Yeah, but I'm okay with that just because I'm not really somebody that takes social media too seriously, right? I think if I didn't have this line of profession, I probably wouldn't even have social media, if that, right?
I totally agree.
I just really use it just because it's kind of like a quote unquote like my web page, right? Like if somebody were to go to my page, they would see like, oh, okay, cool. Like he works, as an audio engineer. He works maybe production here and there, that kind of stuff, right? Other than that, dude, like I would not have any social media really. Maybe Twitter. That one's a little funny, right? Every once in a while, it can be a little funny, a little meme stuff. But yeah, it's super insane, dude. I've known people that have worked with really cool rappers that were invited to like Revenge of the Dreamer session for J. Cole and like all these crazy stuff, and they only have like 800 followers, 1,000 followers, that kind of stuff. And actually, my very first time following back to when I first started. There was this one, I think he was a producer. I don't think he was an engineer at that point.
Okay.
But I don't even know if he's an engineer right now, but I know he's for sure a producer. But anyways, he actually only had a little bit of a following, smaller amount of following too. And, I was like, oh, I'm going to shoot him a DM. Same thing with the guy for the mixing, right? I'm going to shoot him a DM, just be like, hey, how did you get into this space? What did you learn? What did you have to learn? What kind of things that you have to do to be where you're at, really, just
Yes.
for knowledge. Not expecting a reply or anything like that, which that's how you should go into it, right? You never know, because then you'll have a broken heart for like a week and you won't remember or you won't forget about it. But yeah, I DM'd that person. I was like, hey, blah 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 blah, and they actually responded within like a couple of days, and they're like, oh yeah, I think you should do it. If your heart is telling you to do it, you should follow it. Like you just gotta work hard. Like it's a grind. It's a nonstop grind. These things do take forever. These things will knock you down so many times. You just have to learn how to just really just like embrace the knockdown and figure out why you got knocked down, and then really just pursue past that too, right?
Yes.
And yeah, I think to this day I still take his tips on that kind of stuff, and I'm grateful that he answered, dude, because who knows, what if he never answered and I was just like, well, maybe I'll do whatever, right? But yeah, which I don't think so. I feel like sometimes
Yeah.
you feel like you're born to do stuff, which is a God-given gift, really. But yeah, I'm super grateful that he answered. I think he refreshed my mind onto like, hey, it is possible, but it does take a lot of grind, a lot of effort, and a lot of no's, really. I think it's a lot of no's that you will get when you're in the creative field, right? Passing up on opportunities or passing up on this or passing up on that. But like you said, all you need is that one yes, and you just gotta, rock with it pretty much till the wheels fall off, right? Make sure that it's the best that you can possibly be, nothing short of that. Yeah.
Yeah, most essentially. And I'm really glad that he was the guy that answered.
Yeah.
Yeah, because
Yeah.
I can't imagine a world where, well, I mean, maybe we'll be living in a world where Gabriel is an actor now.
Yeah,
You know?
you never know. Yeah,
He's,
you never
he's in
know.
front of the camera now, no longer
Yeah.
behind the scenes.
Exactly. Yeah.
But on the advice type of route, is there any type of advice or any type of encouragement words that you would give someone that is maybe on the same path or maybe is thinking about getting into like the same path that you once walked on. And it doesn't even have to be like sound related. It can just be anything like entertainment or even like following your passions like you once did.
Yeah. Okay. Yeah. No, most definitely. I think I think an important thing is to kind of surround yourself with people that are in a creative space just like you. It doesn't have to be the same field, right? But luckily for me, it was the exact same field, which is the people that I work with today, right? Orlando Gomez, Alfredo Gonzalez, Daniel Aldame, the people that I work with at the studio, Tony Diaz, all incredible people. And before I actually started working with him, I felt like a lot of people didn't really understand me and didn't understand what I was going for, right?
Yeah.
So I think that's why it's really important to surround yourself with people that are like-minded as far as goals go, as you are, right? Just so you can be surrounded by effort, I think I would say, right? Because if you're surrounded yourself by people that are just like, I'll get to it, or like, it'll be all right, that kind of stuff, then you'll fall into that same mentality as well. And it doesn't really, it might take you either longer to get there or just not at all, right? So definitely surround yourself with people that are in the same headspace and the same kind of, ready to grind as you are kind of feel. As far as like words of encouragement, I think I actually mentioned this the other day to one of our interns, Ricky, because we were talking about, some things that I was mentioning to him about like myself, and that I feel like sometimes I try to be perfect in the sense of like my work goes, which is impossible, right?
Yeah.
Like there's no such thing as perfect. Like there's always going to be something wrong, something you could have done better, all that kind of stuff.
Mostly
But
as an artist.
exactly, yeah, especially as an artist. But I think the difference between and I think you guys will have it too, or you guys do have it too, which is trying to reach perfectiveness, I guess, is if that even is a word. But I think we always have to shoot for being perfect, just because there's a lot of people that won't chase that, right? So think about the gap of you and somebody that's not chasing perfectness, right? Even though we might not ever achieve it, even though I might die thinking like, oh, I never got it, but I'm okay with it, right? How much further would you go if you were chasing perfectiveness, right?
Yes.
How much further would you go if you're trying to choose greatness over just like, oh yeah, I'm gonna do it. Like it's just a little thing that I'm doing, or blah blah blah, right? That's mostly the important part there, right? Chasing perfection, even though it's unobtainable. I think that would be
Yes.
the best thing. Yeah.
That's,
How do you feel about that, man?
I mean,
You gotta give me some.
honestly, that's a really good advice, because
Yeah.
I mean, it does separate us from like you said, those people that are like, oh, I'll get to it, or like, that's fair enough. Like people that just do their job for doing their job, unlike people that do their job for like being passionate or creating something that's actually gonna be like great, Because I
Exactly.
mean, Interstellar wasn't created just because they were like, oh, I mean, I'm sure, you know what?
I'm sure they're like the stars, but
I'm sure they're right. Let's just do the whole crop field VFX.
Yeah.
But no, instead he was like, we're gonna plant all of these crops, and we're just gonna wait like 2 years or however long, and we're gonna have it real.
Yep.
Because I want to reach perfection. And sure, there's maybe shots where people are like, oh, I'm sure that's VFX, but at least as long as you're happy with where you got to reach, even if it wasn't perfection,
Yeah.
I agree.
Yeah.
Because as an artist, and not even as an artist, I imagine like just as a human being, if you try to like reach for like your fullest potential, there's no telling like what you can achieve.
Yeah. 100%.
So I totally agree.
100%.
That's a really amazing
Yeah.
advice.
Awesome, bro. Yeah. I live by that. To be honest, I live by that. I think it's definitely a double-edged sword, right?
It is.
I think when you're chasing perfection, really you dive into every single little crack and crevice that like, oh, I should have done this or I should have done that, and you beat yourself up for it. But you got to learn to just kind of beat yourself up for a little bit, right? Maybe like a cool 10 seconds, just because you can always do better. But then understand like, oh, okay, cool. Like, how can I learn from this experience, right? Can I be faster? Should I get here a little earlier to test this, to test that, right? Speaking of like audio engineering itself, right? On the
Yes.
things that I've personally gone through, right? Which is like, oh, this tool didn't work and it might have, pushed me back a little bit here or there, right? Even though something minor that was like 5 minutes or 10 minutes or 15 minutes or whatever the case is, should I get here even an hour earlier, right, than I did? And that's just being an overachiever, but for the right reasons, right? Which is just like, I want to make everything the perfect experience for the person that I'm working for or the person I'm working with, right? And yeah, man, I think it's really important to have that kind of mentality. again, I think our generation is a little bit more eager to get results now rather than like I have to grind for it, right? Because that's
Yes.
the truth of it too. And I get reminded of it every single day, right? Either by my peers or even by myself, right? Where I want something like, for example, the mixing stuff that I want to do for film. It's something that I'm like, yeah, I want to be good at it right now, this moment, right? But there's trials and errors, trial by fire, that kind of stuff that I'll have to go through, and I'm not going to be good at it maybe a year from now, 2 years from now, maybe not even 5, right? Maybe not even at all, right? That could be a thing too. But definitely, it is not something that's going to just kind of come, in my dreams, in my sleep, and then overnight I'm going to be like, oh my God, yeah, I know exactly what I'm doing. I sound great, it sounds great, that kind of stuff. That's no, right? So I think this generation needs to slow down a little bit. Definitely realize it is a grind. Definitely realize that it is a lot of late nights, right? A lot of late nights,
A lot
early
of
morning,
coffee.
no sleeps, no eating for like 10 hours, 12 hours just because you're super locked in, right? I be eating, bro. Let me tell you.
Okay, I have my
I
snacks
be eating,
all
bro.
the
Let me tell you.
time,
Now I
so
do
don't
be
worry.
eating. But yeah, definitely important to do all that kind of stuff. And yeah, I think like I mentioned, like I get that reminder every single day by my peers, Orlando and Alfredo, which are like my mentors basically, right? They're the ones that kind of refine that skill for me of engineering and workflow and even communication itself, right? To be a little bit more descriptive, more firm, more directive of like, this is what we're doing, this is how we're doing it whenever we're in sessions, that kind of stuff. Just because, sometimes people need direction, right, on those kind of things. But anyways,
Yes.
yeah, they definitely remind me like, hey, like, Rome wasn't built in a day, right? Like they say, it definitely takes a very long time. You have to stay patient. That's one of them too, because if you don't, the second you might give up, somebody else will win, right? If you're into that competitive mindset, like that will bring you a lot more farther too, right?
Yeah.
I think it's something that even us in the creative field, if we have like that kind of athlete's mentality a little bit, it definitely will take you a little bit farther. But again, take some things on the opposite side of that pretty seriously, which is like rest too, right? Because you
Yeah.
don't want to be on grind, 24/7, because then you're going to start doing things at like 75%, 50%, and then just kind of get burnt out and that kind of stuff, right? You always want to do something that gives you a balance, and balance doesn't mean like, oh, work 8 hours, sleep 12, or blah, 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 right? And then the other 2 hours, I don't know what you want to do. But yeah, that was terrible math. If I didn't do it right, I'm so sorry. It's early for me. But
You're good.
yeah, definitely find balance. To me, balance is working a little bit more on the longer day that feels more of like an 8 hour day, but really it's like a 10 or an 11 hour day. And then watching a movie, right? Like that's my refresher, just watching a movie or hanging out with friends or hanging out with whoever. That to me is like more of a refresher than to like work like a certain amount of hours and then to do something else for like a longer amount of hours and then to sleep this amount. Like I can really
Yes.
go on like a shorter amount of sleep. You just have to figure out what your internal like balance is, right? Because not everybody will be the same. But yeah, we just went through 3 different topics in like one topic, so I'm
Yeah.
so sorry for that.
No, you're good. This is great.
I'm a yapper, bro, so you gotta stop me.
Oh no, we won. Yeah, it's okay.
Yeah, awesome, cool. But yeah, man, I think that's where it's at, right? Chasing perfection, taking your rest seriously, and yeah, just having that mentality of like, I'm gonna get it, but it's just not gonna be right now, right?
Exactly.
Yeah.
Yeah, enjoy the journey. Smell the flowers.
Yeah, exactly. Touch
Yes.
some grass.
Exactly.
Yeah, exactly.
Yes. But talking about journey, it was an amazing time what we spent right now here.
Awesome.
But for now, guys, it's our episode will be coming to an end.
Yep.
Thank you very much
It was
for
my pleasure, man.
spending time here talking. I know we touch a lot of like different
Yeah.
type of themes, and like you said, it was really fast. And hopefully, we get to have you soon back.
Yeah, no,
And
would
then we
love
get
to.
to talk a little bit more sound. Hopefully, guys, if you want our behind the scenes Albert to come here and at least co-host, I'm not making you a host, Albert, co-host, so he can talk about sound, please comment
Come on,
below.
dude.
If you want Albert, yes, comment below.
Comment an emoji or something.
But
I don't
with
know,
that said,
something
guys,
cool.
that's all that we have here for today. Thank you very much for sitting once again and watching us talk. And hope you have a wonderful weekend. See ya.
Peace.
Talking on
The
your
horn?
Yeah,
The klaxon?
yeah.
What is it?